At the end of the previous episode, local fisherman Roger Morton was intent on stopping the flow of drugs into Varnamtown. When he couldn't get any help from local law enforcement, he decided to go higher up the chain and reached out to DEA agent Mike Grimes. So Josh and I got in the car and set out to find him.
You have played a federal agent in your career.
Yes.
Have you ever interviewed a federal agent?
I've actually not ever.
So this will be the first time that you're sitting down with an actual federal agent to talk about the craft.
Yes. Very good. You bring up a good point. This could be an interesting exploration.
Yeah.
How much I got right, how much I got wrong.
Maybe we should turn the whole thing into an analysis of your performance.
That would be tragic.
Now we're entering a private road, and the road is starting to deteriorate. It doesn't feel like a road that is maintained, and there's a dead end here. This is a little scary, actually. This thing here, where the road just ends, there's a barricade, like a traffic barricade.
Yeah.
We found out that Mike Grimes is retired now and lives in the woods about an hour away from Varnamtown. Grimes was assigned to the area, and like Roger Morton, he wanted to clean up the place too, so you would think that they would be natural allies.
But like everything in Varnamtown, that's not exactly how it went down. Welcome back to Varnamtown.
Grimes's house is well hidden in the woods, down a dirt road. It feels like he set it up to be easily defended in case of attack. There's a floodlight on a pole to illuminate the perimeter of the clearing. When we approach him, he tells us bluntly what he thinks.
I do not like people coming to my door.
As I said, Kyle's an actor, and he spent a significant chunk of his career playing a federal agent.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And you're the first federal agent that he's had the opportunity to interview.
Oh, okay.
And with that, a good conversation starts up about Grimes's career as a DEA agent.
Yeah, I mean, this is the...
And I bought the property around me, so I don't have to look at anyone.
Because we're at the end of the road here. You're pretty isolated.
Yeah.
Grimes opened up about the toll the job took on him.
The nightmare stopped about 2 years after I retired. I never told anybody. I had to go to a shrink because I couldn't sleep. I was afraid to go to sleep. At night, I'm always nervous. I'm not nervous. I just sit there, and it'd be easy to assassinate me. And I just, if somebody wants to do it, I hope they hit me in the head and do it right.
When we ask Grimes to tell us about his efforts to address the narco-trafficking back then, he starts by saying that he had an unusual background for the work he did in the area.
I have a degree in accounting. So I went to work for the CIA.
Okay. Doing what?
I dealt with money.
Accounting.
A lot of cash money.
He wanted to be 007. He wanted to get into the field, so he transferred to the newly created Drug Enforcement Agency, and he worked out of the Washington D.C. office for 7 years. But, like Roger Morton, he loved fishing.
I grew up in a commercial fishing, boat building family.
I mean, you have, almost 10 fishing poles.
Oh, there's more.
Large fishing poles here in the living room. This sign I like too here. It says, "Heroes are people who rise to the occasion and quietly slip away."
After 7 years in D.C., Grimes saw that the DEA had an opening in Wilmington, North Carolina, which is near the coast.
So I looked it up. I said, shit, it's right on the ocean.
Grimes got the job and was suddenly responsible for what most people assumed was a sleepy backwater.
You wanted it because it was near the ocean and you could go fishing.
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't because you thought it would be more challenging.
I knew nothing about this place when I got here.
Did you think it was going to be kind of an easy job?
Yeah.
You did?
I did.
When did you start to realize that this was not the kind of backwater?
Oh, right away.
How did you realize that?
After I had been here my first year, I seized more drugs than the whole office in D.C. did in my 7 years there. In 1 year, I seized more drugs here. I mean, these were big cases. Airplane loads, boat loads.
It was clear that something big was happening in Varnamtown and in the whole county, in fact. And Grimes was getting really good at catching shipments. So good, in fact, that his colleagues gave him a nickname.
Magic.
Magic Mike.
Magic Mike.
Why'd they call you that?
Because I could fool people. I was good at trickery, deceiving people, working undercover. I was dating this woman one time, and she said to me, how will I know when you're telling me the truth? I looked at her, I said, you'll never know. And she said, oh, well, that's not very nice. I said, well, it's the truth.
Soon after Grimes arrived in North Carolina, Dale Varnum showed up at his office, trying to get a sense for just how much the DEA knew about his activities. So what did Grimes do?
That son of a bitch. I threw his ass out of that office and dumped him on his ass so hard it should have hit him in the head.
I think it's great that the drug lord of Varnamtown just knocks on the door of the DEA. Grimes' memory of the Varnums isn't exactly complimentary.
No.
Old, broken down, 5 teeth. Came from the Green Swamp. Have you met anybody from the Green Swamp? The way they talk? Have you talked to anybody who uses more air in their words than necessary? He's a Charles Manson. You know, Manson was a manipulator. He could manipulate people. And that's what Dale does. He's really stupid. But he's got this gift of manipulation. A lot of these people were dangerous, you know, in a small town, and you could kill somebody and get away with it. The sheriff's department lived in the 1920s.
So when Grimes finally got a call from Roger Morton asking for his help, Grimes was suspicious, but he was willing to talk.
Well, I called him.
This is Roger Morton.
I told Grimes, that I would like to see them do something about it.
I got a phone call, and the guy says, it's Roger Morton. He said, I'd like to meet with you. He said, I have some information I want to give you. So I said, okay. Well, it was late, and I said, yeah, okay. It was dark out.
And met him at Crossroads in a pretty nice store there.
In Grimes' memory, that nice store, a Tasty Freeze.
So I was going to meet him at one of these Tasty Freeze things. Said, I'll be there.
If you want to meet a DEA agent, why would you ask to meet them at night at the Crossroads?
At the Dairy Freeze or whatever the hell.
Did that strike you as a strange request?
No, not for Brunswick County.
Again, this is another classic Varnamtown moment. You're a crusader trying to clean up your town. You're calling a very important meeting with the DEA. So presumably you would want to convene this meeting in a very important, serious place. Mm-hmm. Like the Tasty Freeze. This is where the real business gets done.
That's where I have all my important meetings, the Tasty Freeze. Varnamtown is sponsored by BetterHelp. Do you ever get depressed in seasons, like a seasonal depression? Because we're in the winter months right now, obviously, around the country, and the days are shorter. I know that I am affected by it.
I would think that you would have developed some tolerance for the darkness.
That's good. When I went to work with David Lynch.
Yes. That's true.
So I guess you're right. I did.
Yeah.
My God. No, I just think it can affect people, these seasonal depression. Yeah. And BetterHelp is a place you can turn to.
Yeah, it's entirely online, and they'll match you with a therapist. Yeah. And you don't even have to leave your house.
I like that. You can stay in the dark cavern.
You don't even have to get out of your bed.
We're not encouraging that.
BetterHelp is entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Visit BetterHelp.com/town today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/town. This meeting at the Tasty Freeze should be a meeting of two guys who want the same thing.
So I pull in, and the car is backed in next to the Tasty Freeze building.
This is Mike Grimes again.
It's closed. It's dark out there. But you can see a little bit of light coming from the Tasty Freeze. So when Roger opens the door, there's another person sitting in the car. And I'm watching, and I'm thinking, I don't know, I don't like this. So then, from the light that's shining in the car, I see a flash suppressor come up over the dashboard. And I said, Jesus, this is stupid. I shouldn't have done this by myself.
Okay, what's going on?
Roger showed up with a rifle, with a modified rifle. See, Roger was suspicious of Grimes because law enforcement, as far as Roger could tell, wasn't doing enough. There were always more and more drugs coming into Varnamtown.
There's another reason that Roger was suspicious.
Right. Roger's brother, Dwayne.
Exactly. Dwayne was a so-called clam cop.
A clam cop is a fish and wildlife cop who patrols fishermen.
Right, and he had moved to the area to be closer to nature.
Like Roger.
Exactly, and they were super close anyway.
So when Roger calls to tell Dwayne that he's going to go meet this DEA agent, Dwayne said something very unusual.
Yeah, I called him. I told him, I said, I'm meeting with Mike Grimes. He said, don't go by yourself. And so he rode with me.
Don't go by yourself?
He's basically implying that Grimes is a crooked cop.
Yeah, and that's why nothing was getting done.
Yeah,
right?
He's saying that the DEA is in on it, and that's why Varnamtown has become a transshipment site, because they have the protection of the DEA.
Yeah, and he would know, being on the waterfront, that he's working with all the fishermen. He would know, right?
He would hear all this.
Right.
Dwayne was law enforcement himself.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, so right, exactly.
And he didn't want his brother to be killed, essentially.
Yeah. Wow.
And Dwayne, he got his gun, put in a AR-15. Mike Grimes rode up, he pulled right up beside of us. And he saw the gun in the car. And he said, are you Roger? I said, yes.
Because I think they were going to kill me, he and his brother. So I pulled my gun out. And I said, who's that in the car? He said, that's my brother. And now I got my gun up. And I said, and who is your brother? Dwayne Morton. I said, you get your ass out of this car right now. Get out of the car. I had my gun up to him.
And he said, if I'd have known your brother was coming with you, I wouldn't have come and talked to you.
See, Grimes knows Dwayne, and here's where things get interesting.
As if they weren't already.
True. Grimes doesn't trust Dwayne. He doesn't trust him because he feels that Dwayne has gotten too close to the people that he's supposed to be policing out on the water.
And I told him, I said, Grimes, let me tell you something. You hadn't done crap. And I said, we're getting impatient. And the council's getting impatient, and the people are getting impatient, and it's your job to do something. Either you do your job and do something about it, or we're going to see if we can't get something done about you.
Grimes understood that the two brothers were threatening him. He believed that they weren't there to clean the town up at all.
He had every reason to kill my ass. Get rid of me, you're going to get rid of the horsepower behind the investigation. So I put my gun up to his head. He said something about being protected by his brother.
The way he explains it is it wanted you to crack down on the smuggling.
Yeah.
That's what he says.
Yeah.
Do you recall him asking that?
No. It might have been his intention, but there wasn't going to be any conversation with a guy with a high-powered rifle.
So Grimes got the hell out of there. And Roger was so pissed off at Grimes, at the DEA, at everybody, that he did the only possible thing he could think to do at that point.
I went straight home, wrote the president a letter.
Roger still has a copy of the letter he wrote President Reagan.
President Reagan, it is in desperation and as a last resort that I write this letter. My name is Roger Morton. I live in a small beach town on the North Carolina coast. I am at the present time a member of the town council. I moved here to become a commercial fisherman. I've worked hard to make the dream I had always had to make a living fishing come true. Didn't take long being in the fishing business to learn that there was quite a bit of drug activity in this area. I asked the police chief why nothing was being done about it and got the same answer, that nothing could be done. I and others here began to have serious doubts about several of the agents in this area. I tried last spring to call the U.S. Attorney General unsuccessfully several times. Mr. President, my family and I have worked too hard to clean up our town, to let it all end here. We can no longer fight this kind of money and this kind of system. Please send someone in here who you can trust. Sincerely, Roger H. Morton.
Wow, that's quite a letter. Did Reagan respond?
Absolutely not. He did not respond, though I kind of like the idea that Reagan would show up in Varnamtown and arrest Dale Varnum.
And he'd be there with Nancy.
You know, I kind of have this image of Ronald Reagan landing in Varnamtown on the REO Speedwagon airplane.
Oh,
that would bring it all full circle.
Maybe he's even piloting it.
In a fist fight. It's like a Ronald Reagan movie.
Yeah, he could handle himself for sure.
Yeah. What do you think a bodybuilder would think of HelloFresh?
Oh, I think they find it very helpful.
What they do is they deliver meals ready to cook to your door. You know what? There's a whole line of recipes that are protein smart.
Yeah, see, I think that would make the most sense.
That's one of the things here about HelloFresh is that you don't have to discipline yourself exactly. You just sign up to HelloFresh and they take the
guesswork out of that.
They take the guesswork out of it.
I love that.
You know who would love this? Austrian bodybuilders.
These Austrian, they would love this. Like if Arnold was competing now, he would do this. That don't be puny. Do your squats. You must go to hellofresh.com/VarnamtownFree and use code VarnamtownFree for free breakfast for life. Don't be puny. One breakfast item per box. Don't be greedy while subscription is active. That's free breakfast for life at hellofresh.com/VarnamtownFree with code VarnamtownFree. I don't know.
What happened? It turned into a British thing.
He turned into somebody else, and I don't know who he is. But he's quite scary. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit.
One of the things that is amazing about Varnamtown is that they're this tiny little town of 300 people in the middle of nowhere. And yet they feel like they are the center of the universe.
Yeah.
It's almost like not just them, but people who show up in this town. Suddenly, it's like there's something in the water.
Right. They begin to think that they are the center. They're controlling things.
It's everybody. It's Dale, who's saying that he's made this deal with Pablo Escobar to turn Varnamtown into a major transshipment site, and there certainly seems to be some evidence of that.
Yeah.
But it's also Roger Morton, who shows up and decides to make himself sheriff, and when that doesn't work, writes a letter to President Reagan and expects him to do something.
Yeah.
Like,
it's
that takes a certain amount of hubris to think that the President of the United States cares about a town of 300 people.
When you think about Grimes, I mean, he feels like he's hit the drug-busting jackpot by leaving D.C.
And he kind of has. Despite Roger's letter, what's interesting is that help was on the way. Grimes was mounting a full-scale operation. He just didn't want to tell Roger about it for one very good reason.
The reason is his brother. One of the targets was Dwayne. After the credits of this episode, we'll talk about drug smuggling movies and TV shows based on true stories.
And then, in the next episode of Varnamtown, we're going to take a closer look at the chaotic landing of the REO Speedwagon plane and the problems it caused Roger Morton.
So stick with us as Roger's heroic quest helps set in motion forces that will end up shattering his own family.
Varnamtown is produced by Epic Magazine, Picture Perfect Federation, and Full Picture in association with PodcastOne.
Special thanks go out to the residents of Varnamtown for telling their story and to Lynn Betts for her help.
The Epic team includes Harry Spitzer, Josh Levine, Frank Slodisco, Melise Toussaint, Dan O'Sullivan, and Leela Tulin.
Additional reporting by Kijin Higashibaba.
The Picture Perfect Federation team includes Patrick Waxberger, Ashley Stern, Tyler Nell, and Samina Martin.
The Full Picture squad is Desiree Gruber and Ann Walls. Frank Reyna supported me during production. Original music composed by Jonna Bechtold and Rob Kieswetter. Additional music provided by American Production Music, Epidemic Sound, and Premium Beats. Studio recordings took place at Silver Lake Recording Studios.
Welcome to the after show, the after hours of Varnamtown. There are a lot of movies and TV shows that touch on some of the subjects that we're talking about here.
Yes. Specifically, I'm thinking of American Made.
Yeah, American Made.
Yeah, the film with Tom Cruise.
Which is a true story, set in Arkansas. Much of it was set in Arkansas, about a pilot named Barry Seal, who, during the 80s, allegedly was flying operations for the CIA running drugs into the U.S.
Yeah.
And this was based on a script by a guy named Gary Spinelli. I actually read the script when it came out in 2014. It was on the Blacklist, which is kind of a list of the best scripts that have not been produced. And at the time, it was called Mena, for the town, Mena, Arkansas.
Sure.
Mena, Arkansas is a town with a population of 5,000 people.
Okay, again, small town.
Small town, much, much bigger than
Varnamtown.
Varnamtown.
Yeah.
And when I first started hearing the stories of Varnamtown from you, I thought, oh, this is like that Tom Cruise movie.
Oh, yeah?
American Made, where this guy is funneling drugs into a small town, also in the South.
Yeah.
But then, as I learned more about Varnamtown, the big distinguishing factor for me between these two stories is that American Made is all about Tom Cruise. It's about this one guy. Whereas in Varnamtown, it seems like it was a real town effort. It wasn't just one guy. It was it was kind of a decision. It feels most of the town made, except for Roger Morton.
Yeah, I mean, you could draw a connection between Dale Varnum, I think, and Barry Seal, and just they're sort of the Pied Piper, if you will.
Well, in many ways, it seems like they're opposites because it seems like Tom Cruise knows what he's doing. It doesn't seem like the smugglers in Varnamtown necessarily know what they're doing. The REO Speedwagon plane could barely land.
Right.
The Captain Tom, the ship runs aground.
Right.
These guys are like kind of idiots.
It's the comedic relief, a comedy relief, I think.
Yeah, and much of the storytelling that has been done about this topic, about drug smuggling in the 80s, much of it has been pretty straightforward, dramatic. Starting with Miami Vice, right? Miami Vice was a heavy, gritty show, slick but gritty.
Yeah.
That being the touchstone, right?
Oh yeah, that era. Sure.
Of that era, and everything since, right? That set the standard for how you tell this story. There was no humor, as far as I recall, in Miami Vice.
Yeah,
they all seemed to know what they were doing.
Yeah.
But I think one of the takeaways I have from this is that everybody was just kind of making it up on the fly. Even Mike Grimes, he just showed up. He had no idea that this was a massive drug running operation.
Yeah.
And he had to learn how to do it himself.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and it was the early days of the DEA. So I think they were all trying to figure out how we manage this and what we deal with and what are we up against.
Right. I mean, you see this told in a pretty kind of grounded way in Narcos, where they're also telling the story of Pablo Escobar and the DEA who's trying to track him down.
Yeah.
Again, not a lot of humor.
No.
What they're missing is the inventiveness and scrappiness of Varnamtown.
Yeah. Do you like Valentine's Day? Does Valentine's Day make you nervous? The idea of getting something for Valentine's. Do you feel pressure to get? Do you feel pressure to get something for Valentine's
Sure.
Day? Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
I do too. I've got something for you.
What is it?
This is a new product, moisturizing product called One Skin, and your wife's going to be very, very happy to get this. In fact, you're going to be very happy because now with winter weather, you're going to need something to slather on your face, and this One Skin is the bee's knees.
Okay. Tell me about it.
Well, it's a moisturizer, gets into your skin at a cellular level, and just makes everything feel soft and lovely.
Oh,
Yeah.
sounds very nice for Valentine's Day.
I think it's a perfect Valentine's Day gift. Here, I've got a little bit here. Let me put this on your face.
Can you do that again?
Yeah, but only one more time.
One Skin is more than skincare. It's about skin longevity, targeting the root causes of aging to help you look and feel your best at every age. Get started today with 15% off using code TOWN at oneskin.co. That's 15% off oneskin.co with code TOWN. After you purchase, they'll ask where you heard about them, so please support our show and tell them that we sent you. It's time to expect more from your skincare routine. Invest in the health of your skin with One Skin.
I like it.
There's other, I'm thinking of other TV shows like Snowfall recently from 2017 that John Singleton did, David Andron, Eric Amadio. This is a show on FX about exactly this, about the CIA smuggling cocaine specifically into urban areas to finance their operations.
Yeah. So a concerted effort, something that was, they had a plan and they set it in motion.
And that show, which is very good, it's run many, many seasons now, is based on the reporting of a journalist. I don't know, it's not explicitly based on this, but the journalist who first started to really dig into this story of the CIA having connections to drug dealing in the United States was a guy named Gary Webb, who wrote for the San Jose Mercury News. And he wrote a bunch of reports that got attention. Maxine Waters, the representative here in California, took it up and was trying to shine a light on CIA activities within the United States. And there's a little bit of a response from people sometimes to be like, wow, that's not true. That's not possible.
Yeah. How could that be?
Right.
Yeah.
But we probably would have said the same thing about Iran-Contra, right? What are the chances that the U.S. government is trying to do a deal with our supposedly top enemy in Iran in order to secretly fund the Contras in Nicaragua? People at first blush would have been like, this is crazy. There's no way they're doing it.
Right.
But guess what?
Too complicated for the government to even figure out.
Right. And yet Ollie North figured it out.
Yeah, he did.
Right. So it's sometimes hard to know what is going on. And everybody in Varnamtown is aware of these stories too. And back in the day when Iran-Contra broke in 85, I believe, that was right in the midst of all of this stuff that's happening.
We're talking about, the story.
Roger Morton writing a letter to President Ronald Reagan asking for his help. Ronald Reagan might have been like, actually,
I've got an idea.
Yeah.
This gives me an idea.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
The Gary Webb's reporting and his story was turned also into a movie, by the way, called Kill the Messenger, starring Jeremy Renner, which I think is a pretty underrated movie. As a journalist, I appreciate movies about journalists.
Of course.
And this guy was very brave. He was telling a story that people, on the one hand, was saying was just a complete conspiracy theory.
Right.
On the other hand, he had some solid reporting. It was a well-done movie, directed by Michael Cuesta. There was something about the true story of Gary Webb, this reporter. He reported this whole story about the CIA bringing drugs into the United States. His own newspaper, the Mercury News, essentially did a retraction of some of his reporting. And he ended up dying from what the police said was a suicide.
Oh, my.
They said it was a suicide, but there were 2 bullet holes in his head. How do you do that?
Yeah, how do you do 2? How do you miss the first time, but still...
Right, well, he didn't miss.
Well, it sounds like this is a story within a story, so this is another...
It's very suspicious. How do you commit suicide with 2 shots to the head?
Yeah. Who makes that judgment? That seems not right.
There's a lot of talk in Varnamtown and in the area about Mike Grimes. People know that he worked for the CIA.
Yeah.
And so there is this feeling amongst Varnamtonians that the CIA was involved in the area. And it may be the simple version of the story, as Mike Grimes says, is he was an accountant for the CIA. He got bored. He wanted to go do actual work in the real world. And so he then joined the DEA. And his work with the DEA in Varnamtown has nothing to do with being an accountant for the CIA.
Right.
But to Varnamtonians,
All right, there's a connection.
there's a connection.
Yeah.
Right. And of course, there's this huge amount of storytelling now in popular culture between American Made, Snowfall, Kill the Messenger, all these stories about the CIA dealing drugs in the United States.
Yeah. It's a lot, there's a lot of where there's smoke, there's fire. Is that what you say?
Well, certainly the storytelling is there.
Yeah.
So I founded Epic Magazine with Josh Behrman, and Josh came to me a little over 10 years ago with a story about the CIA. It was actually about the CIA's effort to get hostages out of Tehran during the hostage crisis. And it was a zany story. He told it to me. He's like, the CIA created a fake movie, a science fiction movie, so they could go pretend to do a film scout in Iran to get these hostages out. And I was like, this is insane. So that story that turned into the movie Argo and won the Academy Award for Best Picture.
Actors will do just about anything.
Actors and CIA agents.
On location in Iran.
And it's what struck me about the story was how zany it was. Nobody in a million years would believe that the CIA would create a fake science fiction movie to do a location scout, which is part of the reason why I think it worked.
I agree with you. They pulled it off because of that.
Right.
Completely unexpected.
And so in this case, it's the idea that the CIA would have anything to do with Varnamtown seems, on the one hand, ludicrous. But on the other hand, you've got Mike Grimes, who did in fact work for the CIA.
Right.
He, of course, left the CIA to join the DEA, but it kind of seeded the idea in Varnamtown that the CIA was involved somehow in this smuggling. How is this possible?
Yeah.
How is the CIA operating domestically? They're not supposed to.
Right.